How's it going, everyone? I want to talk about Letter to a Priest by Simone Weil. Recently read this with a reading group that I'm in. We read this alongside Simone Weil's Study for a Declaration of Obligation to the Human Being, um, where she kind of lays out her theology. Um, and I think, to my understanding, this was someone kind of told her to write a new constitution, which is interesting. And she kind of, wrote a kind of theological thing about the reality situated outside the world that eludes all human facilities except attention and love. Um, and so I don't really need to get into that, but because she kind of talks about that here, where in a letter to a priest, where she wrote this letter to a priest talking about her kind of critiques of the Catholic Church and Christianity, and whether, if any of these critiques prevented her from receiving baptism. Um, but yeah, so she talks um, a good a bit about how other pre-Christian uh, societies, religions kind of had this, the highest attention to the goodness and love of the world. It was there before Christianity, um, which I don't think is really anything new, but you know, eh, something that we definitely need to keep in mind. Um, she talks about the um, Hebrews had for idols not metal or wood, but a race, uh, a nation, something just as worldly. Their religion is in essence inseparable from such an idolatry because of their notion of the elect chosen people. So another good critique of dogmatic religion, our chosen people, um, kind of thing. And then the one that I really want to get into, she says, when Christ said, "Teach all nations and bring them the news gospel," he ordained them to bring news, not theology. Christ himself, having come, tells them to add this news to the religion of Israel. So the keyword add. He probably wanted each apostle to likewise add the good news of the life and death of Christ to the religions in the nations where they would find themselves. But the order was misunderstood because of the irreducible nationalism of the Jews. They needed to impose their scriptures everywhere. If it seems very presumptuous to suppose the apostles could misunderstand the orders of Christ, I would um, or you get that's theological stuff. Besides, it is written that a tree is judged by its fruits. The church has borne too much bad fruit, there is not for there not to be some error from the beginning. Europe has been spiritually uprooted, cut off from that antiquity where all the elements of civilization had its origins, and such went on to uproot other continents since the 16th century. Um, It'd be strange that the word of Christ preceded such effects if it had been properly understood. Christ said, "Teach all the nations and baptize those who believe," which is to say, those who believe in him. He never said obligate them to renounce everything their fathers viewed as sacred and adopt the history of a people unknown to them as a holy book. I have been assured that the Hindus would in no way be prevented by their own tradition from receiving baptism if the missionaries had not imposed renunciation of Vishnu and Shiva as a condition. If a Hindu believes that Vishnu is the Word and Shiva is the Holy Spirit, and that the Word has been incarnated in Krishna and in Rama before becoming incarnate in Jesus, by what right do we refuse them baptism? All the same, in the quarrel between the Jesuits and the papacy over the missions in China, the Jesuits were the ones fulfilling the word of Christ. So this addition, um, and as the good news, an addition of the good news to the religion and the culture of the people, and not to obligate them um, to renounce their culture and tradition, and take up Christianity. I think that that's really I wanted to emphasize here. Something that I took away from the letter to a priest is something very important, because I think a lot of the a lot of Christians that I've seen, I think even the kind of superficial critique is that it is very imposing. Christians kind of might have this like you need to believe in Christ or you're going to hell kind of thing, and it's very off-putting. Um, and even though it's not the um, and the language is fudgy in there. This we need Jesus to reconcile us to the good, or to say, in my belief in of Christianity, that is what Jesus is there for. I believe that. I think that's you know there are other ways to get us to reconcile to the good, but I think Jesus most powerfully, at least in my own understanding, is the the way to reconcile us to the good in the best way. But anyways, the one reason I want to bring this up and is that reason, but also coming to Rene Girard's last book and um, Battling to the End, he makes this remark about Pope Benedict the 16th, where he said that if we're not careful, the war of reason against religion will follow that of religion against reason, and that the pathologies of religion and reason which necessarily erupt when reason is so reduced that questions of religion and ethics no longer concern it. Um, so, that we live in, you know, a, a scientific, materialistic world now, culture, that has, used their reason, their scientism, to fight against religion. Um, and now science has kind of become a religion in itself, and it's now attacking reason. Um, I think we have to be careful now that we're kind of recognizing this to not again kind of use religion as this as another kind of reason, some kind of dogma to attack um, these scientific materialistic our fellow brothers and sisters, um, and say you need to think this way or else, or and um, I think we can, like, that the whole project of the Enlightenment was to use science to show the glory of God in human creation through our science. And Peter Thiel has said recently that science has to fight a two-front war of skepticism and dogma. Too much skepticism, you doubt that the things in front of you are even there, and you can't do science. And with too much dogma, you impose your scientific understanding on people, and we've seen the effects of that very recently. And um, you can't do science either way. And in the same way with religion, you need to have a balance of skepticism, I think, and your faith. You got to have some skepticism, or you kind of get taken advantage of in a way. You can get into some kind of like dogmatic, uh, uh, yeah, the dogma of cults or something like that, or anything. And but you also need to have faith in the way that you need to believe that your parents have the best interest for you, people around you have the best interest for you, your relationships, and then the same with God, that he's wants the best for us, that he's working things out for our own good. And so I yeah, just to kind of bring us back to that balance, um, I think is really the message that I got from Simone. Even though she doesn't call herself Christian, doesn't go to church or anything. I think she's helping us kind of n- prevent the dogma of religion, um, uh, uh, and not having reason, um, cultivated and make it as healthy as possible. Um, and with that, I just also wanted to show um, a recent interview that I did with writer Kristen de Montfort. She writes about a lot of different things. She's fascinating. She writes about Thiel and Alex Karp and Palantir. She translated Alex Karp's dissertation from German, which is really fascinating. So I was interviewing her on that and some of the recent articles that she wrote. But one of the questions that I asked her was about this kind of she's kind of a Nicklandian techno utopianism, which is kind of fueled by this the culture of America, but she talks about how here, one of the photos that made me emotional almost instantly every time I look at it is this picture from 1990 where the McDonald's flag, the golden arches of a red background, is flying next to the flag of the Soviet Union, taken when the first McDonald's opened in the USSR in Moscow. Hundreds and hundreds of Russians lined up opening day to finally have, at long last, easy access to cheap, calorie-dense food, the basis of human survival. When I read the news in 2022 that McDonald's had left Russia entirely, it was a knife in my heart because it represented one of the biggest failures of the blob, that America did not lay strong enough bridge down to the Russian Federation after the collapse of the Soviet Union. What use is winning an expensive and decades-long Cold War, which is the proximate cause of 60,000 deaths of American soldiers in the Vietnam War, that almost tore this country apart against a rival empire if you don't successfully cross-pollinate with and colonize that which you have defeated? It wasn't Russia's responsibility, it was ours as the winner, and we clearly didn't succeed in bringing them under our wing. Um, it's really absurd because there's more than enough cultural overlap with Russia to get started, way more than a country than with a country like Afghanistan or Iraq. So here are the pictures she's referring to. And so this is, I think, um, kind of what I'm talking about is like we're able to have a healthy balance of our scientism and our religion. I think we're able to, cross pollinate, like, what Simone is saying, where, we can deliver the good news across all people and show, the best, the logos, the way forward. And yeah, so that's really I wanted to communicate regarding what I got away from Simone Weil's A Letter to a Priest. So, yeah, definitely know. I want to know what you guys think. If you've read Letter to a Priest, Simone Weil, what you think about her and the ideas that I presented here. Yeah, let me know and hope you're all well. Take care.